Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company taking a look at a Springfield SAR-4800 in 5.56. It's a FAL, but in 5.56. That is an interesting and unusual rifle. These were imported by Springfield Armory in the early 1990s, so I believe 92 and 95, or 92 through 95. In total, about 700 of them came into the country in this configuration. And when they actually came into the US, they were all post-1989, post-import ban guns, which means when they came in, they had dummy flash hiders and they had big old solid thumbhole stocks. However, with the expiration of the assault weapons ban in the United States, it has been possible legally to rebuild these rifles using enough American parts into a configuration like this. And whoever had this one went one step farther, and instead of just getting rid of the thumbhole stock, they went ahead and converted it to the actual paratrooper configuration, which is pretty cool. So this rifle was manufactured by Imbel in Brazil. Brazil had been making or working on 5.56 adaptations of the basic FAL system in the guise of the MD series of rifles, the MD1, 2, 3, and MD97. And I'm sure there was the potential for some interest in those rifles in the US, but that would have meant going through the import hurdle of getting those guns approved as new semi-auto designs. And especially with the onset of the assault weapons ban, there was no possibility of doing that. They didn't want to do that and then also do thumbhole stocks and this and that. And what I suspect Imbel and Springfield realized is, hey, we already have the FAL. We can just adapt it to 5.56. It's already been approved for import. We have to get an import permit for it, but the mechanism is identical. All the safety mechanisms are the same. All of the prevention of conversion to full auto, all that stays the same, so it ought to be pretty easy to import. And it, in fact, was. We have a marking here on the upper receiver, Springfield Armory, Geneseo, Illinois, but made in Brazil. These have the same designation as the 7.62 NATO rifles that Springfield was bringing in. That 1005 SA-48 match is on all of these receivers, along with Springfield Armory's logo. The really relevant part is here on the other side, which identifies this as a SAR-4800 in 5.56 millimeter. Serial number is 1647. It's a sporter. It was a post-ban import. In total, they imported about 700 of these. The serial numbers start at 1,000 and go up to about 1,700. And for the record, SAR-48, without the zeros, was Springfield's pre-ban import designation. After the assault weapons ban, import ban, they turned it into 4,800. Anytime you see a 4,800, that indicates that the rifle came into the US in post-ban configuration. Now the 5.56 conversion is of course the main mechanical point of interest here. What they did was basically just, they put a magazine well conversion inside the original magazine well. This is now a magazine release, so the rifle uses standard AR-15 mags. All this button does is simply reach across to the other side, right there, where it acts as a little catch that hooks into the AR's magazine catch. Now the original FAL mag release would have been right here. This has been replaced by a solid fixture that helps hold this magazine well in place. If I pop this open, I can show you the inside. There's that. Now, because this is in the para configuration, there's no space for a recoil spring to go into the buttstock. So instead, on the para guns, by the way, this rifle has a little recoil buffer in it. On the para guns, the recoil spring was built into the top cover, mounted in the top cover. So this is separate from the 5.56 conversion. This is simply a new bolt carrier and a new top cover to go along with a new lower receiver and new buttstock. The relevant part for our purposes is the bolt. You can see that this is serialized to the gun, 1647, and this is a totally standard 7.62 bolt, except that the breech face in the front has been cut for a 5.56 diameter cartridge instead of a 7.62. For comparison, here's a 762 bolt. This is an FN produced bolt, this is an Imbel produced bolt, so there are a couple little differences in some of the exact manufacturing cuts in here. But dimensionally, these two are identical. On that side, on the top, you see the difference when we look at the bolt faces. So 762 and 556. The extractors, of course, are a little bit different as well to properly match the rim diameter, but really, that's all that's going on there. They just replaced the bolt along with the ejector just to be the right length and set in this inner magazine insert and a 556 barrel. And that's it. You got yourself a 556 caliber FAL. There's an interesting conundrum on the collectability of a rifle like this, because you're looking at collector's value versus practical value. And on the one hand, the practicality suffers a little bit in this because you've got all the weight and mass of a 7.62 NATO rifle, but then it's been converted down to 5.56. So this is like one of the heaviest rifles in 5.56 in its class. On the other hand, of course, that weight does help tamp down recoil a bit, but then at the same time, you've got some really purist collector sorts who are interested in rifles the way they actually were produced and came into the US, which means with that fake flash hider, with the original thumbhole stock. Those people aren't going to be super happy because this rifle has been converted to, well, to a whole different kind of pattern. However, it's a much more practical pattern. It's a way cooler pattern in my mind. I think thumbhole stocks are kind of ugly and I just don't like them in general. And so the idea of taking this 5.56 4800 and converting it to paratrooper, I think that's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want to find out more about Rock Island, you can check out the links in the description text below to their Instagram page and their YouTube channel. They have some cool stuff there, and they always have a ton of cool stuff in their auctions, so check them out. Thanks for watching.